Hey everybody, welcome back. Rafi here, and on this channel we usually talk about fragrances. Sometimes I talk about random stuff, but today I'm going to talk about fragrances because that's what you're tuned in to see, that's what you're interested in. And I've got 7. They're not ones that are majorly talked about. They're not fragrances that you'll actually find in department stores or even on discounters anymore because they are rare and discontinued. At one point they were not rare and they were not discontinued, but now they are rare and they're very discontinued. What happens when fragrances become rare and discontinued is that the price of those fragrances goes up, sometimes astronomically, especially if they had a little bit of a following when they were in production. And of course, when they do become discontinued, or if someone on the old YouTube decides to hype them up and then every other YouTube fragrance reviewer gets on that same bandwagon and starts hyping it up, before you know it, that fragrance that used to be maybe around $20 a bottle is probably around $700 a bottle. That's one hell of a markup from when they were actually in production and nobody knew about them or wanted them. Well, there are still some fragrances out there that are also rare and discontinued, but haven't shot up as much. Now, I say as much because anything that gets discontinued plus this inflation that we're having around the world is going to cause for the price of things to go up. Some are going up more than others. These, because they're kind of been under the radar and for no reason other than I think people don't really know about them very much, or at least the larger sort of channels that like to spruik these hidden gems, which I find hilarious because if you're a large channel and you talk about hidden gems, they're kind of not hidden anymore right after you upload the video. But these are, because I haven't actually heard many people talk about this, and even when they have, it was just very briefly as well. So I don't think many people took notice. There are caveats to this, of course, but we're going to go through, how many do I have? I've got 7. I've got 7. There probably maybe more that I've got, but I think I'll stick with 7 for now because I don't want to hype them up too much myself. Let's begin with the first one. Released in 1990, the House of Rochas decided to release a fragrance perfumed by Jean-Claude Helena, who is the in-house perfumer of Hermes, or was the in-house perfumer of Hermes for a very long time. And for Rochas in 1990, he released this. This is called Globe.
Globe, la nueva fragancia para hombre, de Rochas.
It is a very weird scent. It's a very strange scent for 1990 and what happened a few years after 1990. At the tail end of the 1980s, you had still the 80s sort of sensibility, right? You still had the brashness, the boldness, the outlandishness that the 80s brought us. Even in the transition, I still remember seeing quite a lot of very large shoulder pads and very bouffant style of hair from both men and women. And then of course, in the mid-90s, we had the influx and the deluge, which is the right word, the deluge of aquatics and sort of light, sort of airy, fairy freshies that were very non-gendered, let's say, because anybody could have worn them and anybody could have gotten away with wearing them. We went like full 180 from the 80s to like the mid-90s. But we had this transitional phase, and this was in that transitional phase. And I think it got lost because it didn't really capture an identity as much. It's a very complex scent.
Oh my God!
It's a floral leather with like fur in it as well. Not animal fur as in F-I-R, the tree fur. It's got carnation and rose, which give it that floral element, and some jasmine in here as well. And artemisia in the top, which you can definitely detect, and some other citric elements. And of course, a coriander seed, which also has a kind of like a lemony, soapy, lemony vibe. Now, some people might say this is not a big... Actually, nobody says this is anything because no one's really talking about it. I'm talking about it. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to spray all of these because hell, why not? Why not spray them? Here we go. Is this visible? It should be visible. Woo! Love that in the air. Now, because it doesn't actually rest on this bed of oak moss and your typical trope notes, it's not really as dated as those older scents from the same era. And it definitely has development. It's not a linear scent at all. So this one can be had fairly cheaply on the grey market. Again, that's where you're going to find it. And most of them are these 50ml bottles. You might find them in the 15ml bottles as well, which I had one of those as well. And the very lovely big 100ml metal sort of bottle, which was a great design. I really liked that. It was very, almost like an Art Deco-ish kind of design. And even this with like the trying to encapsulate the globe within the bottle itself. So the juice itself is encapsulated within the globe. In the opening, it's really kind of messy a little bit, but give it a few minutes, starts to settle down. As usually what Elena's work is actually usually quite nuanced as well. And I believe when he made this, he didn't really want like a beast mode projector kind of scent. Elegant. That's the word I'd use to describe. Elegant. That's Rochas. Globe by Rochas. If you're eBaying it now, it might be a little bit, but certainly not as much as others from this era. Other counterparts of this quality from this era. Can't believe this juice has lasted so well throughout over 3 decades. I'm writing these down so that, you know, I'm getting the first sort of opening, and then we'll come back and we'll check out the mids, and then we'll come back and we'll see how it rests on the base.
How low can you go?
Now, this next fragrance is from a house of Estee Lauder. You might be saying, what? Estee Lauder does men's? Yes, it does do men's fragrances. Of course, you had Estee Lauder pour Homme. That's a great fragrance. Estee Lauder. Actually, I've got that one. Lauder for men. I've got it like a little thing here, but that's not the one I'm talking about now. Ooh, that is nice. I want a full bottle of this. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. The one I want to talk about is this one right here. It is called Brazil Dream for Him. It's like the masculine companion to Brazil Dream for Her, because in 2008, Estee Lauder released the Brazil Dream for Her, and then 1 year later, in 2009, they released this one, Brazil Dream for Him. No perfumer listed, but one word I can use to describe this fragrance is smooth. It is smooth. It is one of the smoothest fragrances that I've come across. Not that I've never been to Brazil, but this is not what I imagined Brazil to smell like. You know, it's very spicy. It's very peppery. There's like a paprika. There's a paprika note in here. And when you spray it on, it's almost, there's a pepper and paprika. And the paprika is like the sweetness of the chili. And then the pepper is like that zest that hits you right up your nose before the cardamom and that the cardamom, and there's cinnamon in here as well. Cinnamon, but it's again a dry, unsweetened, spicy cinnamon. The only thing that's sort of sweetening it up is some neroli. It's giving it sort of like almost like a sugary kind of orangey, sugary kind of vibe, and some patchouli, which is again not the chocolatey type of patchouli. Smooth. Spray this on. Ooh, okay. Getting a lot of that spice. I'm getting a lot of the cinnamon, and the paprika is really setting it apart. And I think that this is way, way, way under the radar. One of the best sort of smooth, if you want, like it's almost in the same sort of line or vibe of Moods by Cresia. Moods Uomo by Cresia. Because that in and of itself is a vibe. And so is this. It's a vibe. And I could maybe, all right, if Brazil is humid, then this would suit a humid, hot climate. But at the same time, I think this works wonders in the cold weather. I really do. It's fantastic. Peppery, paprika-ish, spicy, and apparently there's like a large dose of leather in here. And I can tell when there's leather in fragrances because it's one of the notes that sort of stick out to me, because I'm not the hugest fan of leather fragrances, but this is just so smooth. It's almost like perfumed leather car seats that had been cured in cinnamon and cardamom and paprika, because the leather is just, it's like the material on which all the other fragrant materials have been bonded onto. So there is an idea of leather here in the background, but it's certainly not the main player. I mean, it's there, it's consistent, but it's not at the forefront. It's at the background. It might come out as the top notes start to fade. So let's let that rest. And that's number 2, Brazil Dream for him. Now, this next one I have a very long and lovely history with. This is the one that I gravitated towards as a replacement, not a replacement, but to me, it was an upgrade to Gucci Envy for him. And the one I'm talking about is this 1999 release called Carven Homme. Not to be confused with Carven pour Homme. This is just Carven Homme. I don't have much left. I do not have much left because every time I'm near this fragrance, I end up spraying it on and wearing it. It's just that good. I sort of put this as, if you know Gucci Envy and if you love Gucci's Envy for men, this is like the grown-up version of that. A grown-up, more smoother, more complex version of Gucci Envy. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Now, this was a $20 a bottle fragrance. Came in like the worst packaging. The bottle is nothing special. I mean, it's quite a heavy bottle for what it is, but like you can't grab it from the cap. And I like this nice little touch here on the cap. As a matter of fact, it spells the letter C for Carven. It's not about the presentation for this one, because at $20 I forgave the presentation. It even came in like a blister packaging box. I just thought this belongs in like a Kmart or something, you know. It's like a $1 store. It's like a dollar store fragrance kind of look. But the juice inside is amazing, right? 1999, so it's been around for a while, but it was discontinued a long time ago. Selling at the discounters for $20 a bottle. That's how much I picked this up for. And for $20, this is absolutely amazing. Now, this has gone up in price. The last time I checked it out was only like a year ago, and you could still get it for 130. And I thought 130 Australian dollars, which is about, $5 US. That's not bad. That's actually not bad. And it's still worth it for that price. I just checked before I started recording this video, and the only one that I found was selling at $366. And that's a bit too much for this, because at that price point, you can get yourself a really nice sandalwood and cinnamon and spice kind of fragrance that has, all the notes that are in here, and also made to a higher quality with maybe a better concentration. I mean, this performs quite well. It sits quite close to the skin, but it does stay for a long time, and it does develop. I love it. Smells great. But one thing that happens is in the deep dry down, it sort of starts to break apart and turn into basically nothing, because the base notes in here are quite minuscule in comparison to the opening and the mid, which you get that palisander sort of rosewood and lavender in the opening, which is not an old school lavender either. It's more turn of the millennia kind of lavender. This, in comparison to Gucci Envy, still quite a lot cheaper. If you want to try and find a 100 ml unopened Gucci Envy, you're looking at $800 to $1,000. And so in comparison, $360, yeah, if you really want it. Carven Homme, I am still going to spray this on a tester because I've got a few sprays left. Why not do it? Ooh, I have had this for a long time. The top notes are almost starting to turn a little bit, and you can tell that it's a cheap fragrance, but way more than what, $20, worth more than $20 for sure. All right, so the next one is a more recent pickup. I guess I haven't had this one for decades. I've only had this one for about 4 years or so, and when I picked it up, it was still in the discounters. You could pick it up quite cheap as well, and it is by Byblos. It is called Fusion. I have featured this in a cheapies list video before, and since then it has been discontinued and harder to find. Quite rare and quite good. Like I would say that this, it's actually got the notes on the actual metal plaque here. It's got the notes on the metal plaque. You can probably read that, and it says that it's got bergamot, which I don't think it's got as much bergamot as it states that it's got, and I don't think it's got like actual real bergamot in there. It's got black pepper, which I can smell, but it's not in your nose black pepper. It's very subdued black pepper, and it's got oud wood. There is no oud wood in here. Even the accord of oud wood in here is almost like an aquatic oud wood. It almost feels like a lighter version of Encre Noir Sport. Encre Noir Sport is a darker version of this. However, this has some fruity notes up the top. This has like orange and lychee or lychee, and that's giving it a little bit of a difference up the top. The mids are usually like that subdued black pepper, and there's some geranium in there as well. In the base, you do get that oud accord or gaiac wood. Mostly what you can smell is sandalwood, but something in here is giving it an aquatic vibe. If I could almost say that it's like the Frankenstein love child of Encre Noir Sport and M7 Fresh by Yves Saint Laurent, which both I do have. Now I'm going to have to smell M7 Fresh because I'll take any opportunity. God, I love that one. Look, I've already used up quite a bit, and like I had a separate sort of 5ml decant as well, which I finished. Otherwise, this would be more empty. This is rare and discontinued, but it's hella expensive. Again, this could have actually made the list because not many people talk about M7 Fresh. People talk about M7, but not Fresh. And like I've said many times before, Fresh is the best of the line. Anyway, not to overshadow Byblos Fusion, it's actually pretty damn good. If you can find this one, it will still be cheap, no doubt. It will still be less than $100, and easily you should be able to find this for around 50. And I think it's worth that. And in the summer, this goes actually pretty all right in the summer, and it's quite a different kind of smelling scent than your regular sort of summer freshies. Yeah, so the fruitiness really comes out a lot more on the tester strip, and I think you do need like a little bit of warm weather to liven it up. Fresh, woody, almost aquatic kind of feel. I think it's the lychee that's doing it, but it's very, very nice. Recommend. As from 2013, this particular fragrance. It's Byblos Fusion. They did have quite a number of fragrances, this house, but they've seemed to have sort of disappeared off the face of the planet.